The following program about domestic violence may include content and discussions which may be descriptive and graphic in nature and is meant for mature audiences. This important series is meant to provide a realistic look at domestic violence, to share information and provide resources to not only survive, but thrive.
It accounts for 15% of all violent crime in the United States. In fact, on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by their partner.
Now, if those stats aren't eye-opening enough, think about it this way. 1 in every 3 women and 1 in every 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. Those numbers mirror exactly what's happening right here in the DMV.
Welcome to the 15%, a conversation on domestic violence. I'm Mandrell Birks.
And I'm Dr. Denise McCain.
Now, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and over the next 4 weeks, we're going to pull back the covers on this often secret and silent shame. We will hear from survivors, those on the front lines helping those victims to break free from the abuse, and even former perpetrators.
The stories will be real, raw, and sometimes difficult to hear and watch. Our goal is not to shock you, but we want to shine a spotlight on the issue and move you to become an ally in breaking the silence of domestic violence. Let's begin with our first guest, who knows all too well about living in constant fear and wondering if they will ever break free from the abuse. Ann Sewell is a Prince George's County, Maryland resident. Black eyes, broken bones, hospital visits, and even an AR-15 placed in your mouth. You know, these are just some of the horrible incidents that Ann endured for over 2 decades at the hand of her husband. The abuse even spiraled Ann into a life of personal destruction. After leaving the abuse, she spent another decade fighting drug and alcohol addiction.
Shanae McGee is a 53-year-old single mom of 2. Now, Shanae is a federal government worker and a domestic violence advocate. In fact, she runs her own foundation providing a safe haven for women in harm's way. But even with her knowledge and passion to fight against intimate partner violence, Shanae found herself right smack in the middle of an abusive relationship last year. Now, thank you both for being with us and your willingness to share such a personal part of your life.
And let's start with you. You know, many people would wonder, you were in your relationship for, 20 years. And many people would really wonder and question how and why would you stay so long?
Well, Denise, my relationship started at a very young age. I was in high school. I was very shattered by my parents. So I didn't even know what to look for as a good man or a bad man. And when my ex came into my life as an imposter, I really thought that he loved me. And it wasn't that I wasn't seeking love, because I had love at home, but it was something new. I was excited to be the young lady that he picked, because he was everything, the knight in shining armor, the materialistic things that I was used to getting. So I fell right into the trap. And for me to even think about, how I got in it, I'm still thinking, but I do know how I got out of it. And I look at life now at a different stage in my life of where I'm at now. No, I shouldn't have been there, but fear kept me. I mean, the fear that he put on me with the first hit. The first hit was right in front of my high school. And he did the uppercut. That's what I learned of what an uppercut was. He hit me on the schoolyard, and the hamburger I eaten went flying in the air. That's why I don't eat hamburgers now. But it started there, and yes, I should have left. But when you're young and you're in love And you know, if someone is giving you everything that you want, you don't know whether to leave or not. And he had me in so much fear, you know, from the beatings, the slappings, the burnings, the guns and stuff. He controlled me. And so I just stayed there, you know, and I went through it daily, you know, and it came to a point where if he didn't argue with me, or he didn't hit me, or he didn't kick me, I didn't think he loved me anymore. I just knew he was somebody else. So I looked at it as a way of, this is the love. And I thought love was the type of love that it wasn't supposed to hurt, but I didn't know that. And see, I call myself the old school domestic violence, because believe it or not, I cried out, but nobody listened.
Nobody listened.
Nobody listened, you know? And my mom, I was in silence with them. I never talked about it. She didn't find out until 2017. I had got out of the marriage. I went to my self-destructive behaviors. Everybody thought I was crazy. I was crazy because I went through so much. And when you live by a gun and, you know, you're playing Russian roulette, the gun is beside your head, you're getting kicked, you're getting beat, you just deal with it.
All right, now Shanae, you know the signs of abuse. So they don't often begin with your partner putting his or her hands on you. Talk to us about how you went from advocate to victim.
Okay, so correct. It didn't always start with the putting the hands on me. It started with the threats and pulling out a gun in an argument. And the arguments were not what most people would argue, finances or things of that sort. It could be something that's we disagreed on what the temperature was going to be. And so that would turn into a major argument. My ex, so he would then start to threat about what he would do to me, knowing the kind of work that I did, what I would do. He would counteract and say, well, no, because by the time they get here, the damage is done. So if you're thinking time, you actually thinking time, but by the time someone shows up, you would really be hurt. Specifically if they're telling you what they would do to you.
Like he's planning it out.
Absolutely. And the plan is already there. So if you're in a relationship, like as we were, I wasn't thinking he would hurt me because we, you know, that had never happened. So when you're not prepared for an argument or that someone will hurt you, that person has the advantage because they already know what they can do and what they're capable of doing. So for me, that did turn into fear. Not real sure when this was going to happen because the arguments would be in the morning, it would be afternoon. I worked from home, so I was always accessible. So that pretty much how things happen for me. And then I have a younger child in the home and a sick mother. So I'm trying to protect them, trying to keep the arguments at a minimum or at least out of their earshot.
So you know what I'm thinking about, given what you do, your background, knowing all the signs, knowing what this looks like, how difficult was it for you to actually speak out and let it be known that you were being victimized?
Oh gosh, Dr. Denise, it was very difficult because I know the signs. I've helped, I don't know, hundreds of families in the same position. So when I actually realized that this is my truth, it was very hard because how do you help others? You have the certifications, you have the education, you have the experience, and then you're in that same situation. You know the signs. I know them in my sleep, but yet I love someone who's very abusive.
But what, at one point, did it connect to you that I'm a victim? Because you know all of this. Like, when did it connect that the words that you were putting out to the community were the words that you needed to hear and realize I need to get help?
When I saw the gun.
When you saw the gun, the Russian roulette?
The Russian roulette. I knew then I was in trouble. I'm about to be my own client. I was like, I have to do something. At that point, when I recognized I was about to be my own client, and it became life or death, I'm like, he's gonna kill me if I stay, or he's gonna kill me if I leave.
Yeah, and I'm sure surreal.
Yes.
Surreal, particularly given the fact that this is something that you did and you knew about, but yet you found yourself in that very same situation.
The very same situation.
Very hard, very hard. So, Anne, going back to you, you know, one of the darkest moments in your abuse when it came to your husband was when he placed that gun in your mouth and pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Was that the last straw for you? Was that what it took for you to realize, you know, enough is enough, that I need to get out of this situation?
No.
No.
No. When he did that, after he had beaten me so bad, his words was, "This bee won't die." So the AR-15 that he kept on the wall with the clip in it, this was like 5 or 10 years of that. It stayed on that wall, and I think it was for my discipline.
A gun.
A gun, the AR-15. And that particular time that he did that was the first time that I actually fought back. But I wasn't fighting back to hurt him. I was fighting back to save him, because I was going to kill him with poison. So when I knocked the food away, not to hit him, but to get the food away from him, because he would have died with what I did, because I was tired, you know. He grabbed he beat me real bad with the clothes hangers and the belt, and he pulled the belt out, and I was still like struggling, you know, to maintain. And that's when he went and he put his foot on my chest, and he put the gun in my mouth, and he pulled it, and it jammed.
Wow.
And you know, I tell a lot of people, I know what gunpowder tastes like. The fear, it wasn't even there, because I wanted to die.
You wanted to die.
I wanted to die.
Enough.
I wanted to die. Enough was enough. You know? And he left me there, badly beaten, urine on myself. I mean, I'm laying there with blood everywhere. So, you know, it was a thing, whereas I didn't care anymore. You know?
And that's so common, you know, victims get to a place where they just give up.
Yeah, and
They
I
give
did.
up.
I was talking about almost this was like the 18-year period. I was tired. You know?
I mean,
Every
just to
day.
go through that is just, I just can't imagine. But when we think about what people go through, we know that you were able to break free. Ann was able to break free from her abuser without being shot. But that wasn't the story for Carolyn Thomas. Now, Carolyn is a Texas woman whose boyfriend literally shot her face off before fatally shooting her mother in 2003. Now, we spoke to Carolyn about that fatal day and the horror that still lingers on today. Let's take a look.
He ended up shooting my mom first in the stomach before shooting a bullet downstairs, because I lived upstairs, a bullet downstairs into my downstairs person that lives downstairs. But yeah, so he shot her in the stomach, then drugged me to the living room, shot me in the face, point blank range. And, you know, I just passed out. You know, I tell people that I had like, you know, what you call like an out of body experience, you know, the light seeing the tunnel and all that stuff. And my doctor still tells me today that that was a lack of oxygen to the brain. But if it was like lack of oxygen to the brain, I wouldn't been able to feel what I felt. So when I finally come to, the police officer is coming in. He doesn't know that I'm alive. He thinks I'm dead because by then I'm missing 80% of my face. I'm on the floor. He steps over me to go check out the bedrooms and the kitchen. And then on his way back is when I grabbed his ankle to let him know that I was alive. I mean, it scared the death out of him because he thought I was dead, you know. In honest, he said, you know, Carolyn, you almost got shot a second time.
Such a horrific story. You know, but fortunately, Carolyn's ex-boyfriend is currently serving 2 30-year prison terms in Texas for that shooting. Yeah. But you know, Shanae, when you hear Carolyn's story, and you see stories like that, which unfortunately are not uncommon. We know that it happens more often than people realize. What are your thoughts? And what does that do, or how do you think about your own journey when you hear and see something like that?
When I hear stories like that, I just think how blessed I am, because that could have been me easily, especially with the Russian roulette, with the gun, with just the anger that was displayed and the fear that I had to face dealing with my ex. And so it's interesting because I've been on the opposite side for so long, and then I found myself being a victim. It shows me how strong I was, how strong I needed to be, because I felt like I wasn't just fighting for me, but my family, and the organization and everything that I believe in. So I'm just thankful. And I know going forward what I'm going to do or what would be done, and pay more attention to those flags.
Absolutely. So you've learned some things as a
Absolutely.
result of that, even with your experience.
Absolutely.
You've still learned some things.
Yes, because I saw some of the signs, but they were never directed to me.
Right.
So I was like, oh, you're not talking to me. But eventually it does get back to you.
And when
it
you
comes full circle.
And when you say you saw the signs, I mean, you think about Russian roulette, that's not something that a trainer or someone who's doing professional development will say, you know, if they're playing Russian roulette, you need to leave. You know, people just don't think that it could be that serious, and, or it could happen to them, because we know, and statistically speaking, that we know that typically it takes a victim 7 times for he and she to finally break free from the last time, but you stayed about 20 years. So how can we get those numbers down so more women won't find themselves living in hell for 2 decades?
Well, you know, what I tell my clients and what I still speak, you know, with myself, once you are a domestic violence victim, when you see those signs, don't hesitate. That first hit, I don't want your apology. Leave. Leave what you got on your back. Leave with your dignity and walk. Don't stay around to save no money. Don't stay around to get the bank accounts right. Don't stay around. Grab what you got and go. And that's how I went out, but I went out in blood. I crawled out. I went out with closed eyes. I drove my car with closed eyes, and I drove myself to safety. So don't hesitate for a minute to think it's going to get better, because even though there are bad times when people raise, we are going to argue, but you don't have to do a connection for us hitting and kicking and spitting and locking you up. Don't do it. Just go. I know I love my husband, but he didn't love me, and I had to find out that love doesn't hurt. So, and I would tell anyone that's going through domestic violence, watch the signs. If he got a gun in his dashboard, if he not licensed to carry, go. If he hits you, go. Let your heart mend away from him. Don't stay there to try to make a plan of it, because it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. And that is real.
Yeah,
That is real, and that's good advice, because so many women and men stay thinking they're going to change, you know, thinking it's going to get better. And as you pointed out, they do love their abusers. They want to go back to that person that they fell in love with. That was charming. But you're so right, and a real survivor to have gone through what you have and to be here today, and really both of you. So thank you for that. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but before we go, it would be great if both of you could provide a few takeaways. Shanae, we know it's no secret, right, that domestic violence can make a person feel very isolated. You can feel embarrassed and even ashamed, you know, like it's your fault, like you did something. You don't want people to know about it, right? But of course, can you speak about those feelings and really tell a man or woman who's living in that situation what they should do, along with what Carolyn just said?
Right, I'd have to agree. Because of what I do, the work that I've done in the community, and to find myself in that kind of relationship, it was shameful. I felt like everything that I've learned didn't mean anything because I wasn't using it. And once I got through the fear and the shame, I have to agree, you must go. You got to believe that you're going to be okay. And when I started, as I say, joking about I'm about to be my own client, that was real. And once it resonated with me that I can do this, you must go, not wait, not think, mend your heart on your own and with family and friends. And we have the resources, so you don't have to do it silently. We have all the resources a person would need to get out of that kind of relationship.
And I think you don't have to do it alone.
And you do not.
And people feel like they are alone, particularly because they haven't talked about it and no one knows, adding the element of embarrassment and shame.
Absolutely.
But you are not alone.
You're not.
Help is definitely there for you.
And don't think it can't happen to you.
Absolutely.
You know, don't think it's not you. For those of you watching, it can be you, and that's why we're here for you. But what about you, Ann? You know, what would be your final words, you know, for that woman who feels like the embarrassment and shame outweigh her own personal safety, or they just believe it will never happen to them?
Well, I would tell any woman that's in a domestic violence, awareness is when you are with someone who treats you different from any other thing, if they hit you, if they uphold other situations and they don't uphold you, and they realize that once that hit comes, that slap comes, the verbal comes, the sexual abuse will come. It's all in one thing. If it comes once, it's not because of they had a bad day. They got a problem. Recognize that's not your problem. So don't get so masked up in it that their problem become your problem. Watch them signs and reach out. Speak to it. It's so much resources here now. Like I said, back in the days, I'm old school. There was no resources. That's not why I stayed there, but I was afraid.
No laws, no services. Nothing.
But now
so you were alone.
I was alone, but I'm a survivor though. But I know that God told me in this transition that He knew what my path was before I entered my mother's womb. And I asked Him why I went through all I did. He said, because I brought you out of that darkness to the light, and I need you to save other souls.
There you go.
And that's what I do.
There you go. So basically, in summary, when love hurts, get help.
Yes.
There are resources out there for you. And that's all the time we have for now. Make sure you join us next time as we take a look in teen dating violence and domestic violence in the LGBTQ community. The reality is domestic abuse can happen to anyone, no matter your age, race, gender, sexual preference, or occupation. There's no shame in needing and asking for help. There are resources listed now on the screen. Reach out to a trusted family member or friend, and with the guidance of a trained domestic violence professional, to make a plan and safely break away.
Well, thank you for joining us for the 15%, a conversation on domestic violence. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep the discussion going. That is truly the only way we can break the silence of domestic violence.
This program was produced by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org. Thank you.